Good afternoon. My name is Eric McWilliams. This evening we'll be discussing my analysis and overview of Toyota Motors Company, which has a New York Stock Exchange ticker symbol of TM. Here's a historical graph and ticker for Toyota from 1976 to present. As you can see, Toyota has many ups and downs. And this depicts the global economy, as Toyota has been a global supplier of autos since the early 1970s. Here's the Toyota Motor Board of Directors and corporate leadership. Toyota has a unique breakdown of leadership, and they've recently done a restructuring from 2016, breaking down from regional, and they have a bottom-up approach to the board of directors. As you can see, they have a board of directors, a president, executive committees, several different divisions that cover metallics, global parts, automotives, machinery. Toyota, an interesting fact, is actually three companies in one. They started in textiles and moved forward into automotive. And they also provide parts for warehousing and distribution. Toyota Motors, countries of operations, they operate globally. The number one franchise is in North America, and focused in Europe and Japan. Toyota number two is focused in China, Middle East, and Asia, and oceanic countries, to include Africa and Latin America. And they have a center that focuses on engine, transmission, and other unit-related operations. They focus on globalization through pacts and trades facilitated through the Japanese government and individual countries. But as you can see, they operate 14 manufacturing and distribution centers worldwide. Main markets focused in the United States, we're focused on North America. They have plants in Argentina, Brazil, and Venezuela. Venezuela is questionable given the current political climate. They also have distribution facilities in Spain, Britain, and Germany, just to name a few. They've been kind of hindered in China, given the current climate in China and the competition, given the Great Wall Motors. Great Wall Motors is the number one world distributor of sports utility vehicles, given the sheer population of China and the size of the economy. Given the domestic product, China prefers its own product over foreign investment. Toyota's biggest competitors are Volkswagen, GM, just to name a few. Ford Motor and Mercedes are also on that list. Chrysler, since the merger of Mercedes, became a competitor, but they've had a lot of financial turmoil. In the past, Volkswagen has merged forward with Infiniti and competed with Lexus, but Toyota overcame a lot of its stagnation in the 80s and 90s with mutual plants with General Motors, where they traded market secrets and trade and produced vehicles similar, and that started a platform that led Ford into doing the same thing with Mazda Motors. They create a joint venture and trade technology. One might be dominant in trucks, and one might be dominant in cars. And they want to share technology to gain the edge in their respective commerce or region. This is a calculated ratio. I apologize, it's a little cut off, but the current ratio is 1.4 for Toyota Motors. The quick ratio is 0.096. Long-term ratio is 0.061. Their debt to ratio equity is pretty low, and the return on equity is pretty substantial Toyota Motors gives a pretty large percentage of their profits to research and development to offer new products to consumers at a rapid rate. They currently change over models every 3 years. For example, the Toyota Camry has changed. The 2014 model was supposed to roll out. It had a recall due to structural integrity. The 2014 they produced the 2014.5 instead of the 2015. They saved the new motocross and the engine technology to roll out in 2016. 2016 to 2018, they kept the same model for that 3 years, and they just currently rolled out a larger model of the Toyota Camry. The Toyota Tacoma has largely remained the same. It is a small selling truck, but the technology has improved. But it has largely remained the same as far as amenities inside the truck, as consumers just love the vehicle. Here's Toyota Motors' consolidated balance sheet. Their accrued expenses are pretty low in comparison. Liabilities remain pretty low. Toyota Motors' income statement, taken straight from their website. Consolidated cash flow. Toyota Motors is very efficient at manufacturing and distribution, and the Japanese model remains studied by many, and they remain fairly cash heavy. This has been emulated by Ford Motors. 2008, this is just an interesting side topic. 2008, when the economy crashed in the United States, GM and Chrysler remained heavy in manufacturing, and Ford Motors liquidated many of their models to remain cash heavy, and they modeled this after Toyota just to be efficient. Cash heavy allows you to be forward moving. You can put in research and development. Toyota latched onto Mazda to create the Ford Focus and the Ford Fusion, which is modeled after the Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6. Toyota did this with Subaru to go into the Australian market, as Subaru now creates smaller cars. They were famously for the Subaru Outback, but Toyota has only created mid-sized trucks. Recently, they went with the Toyota Tundra. And that was a focus from their cooperation with GM in the California plant. But with the Toyota merger and in manufacturing with Subaru, they were able to create other models. Subaru was able to create other models, and Toyota was able to break into the Australian market. This is a depiction of the Toyota Motors stockholders' equity. Implication of Toyota Motors. Toyota Motors has presented itself global leader since 2008, as stated. They have 45.5% of the Japanese market, but Japan has other global leaders, Mazda and Honda, which make up a large share of competitors, but not really a direct competitor of Toyota, which is kind of odd. Honda is number 6 and 7th and 8th respectively, with a Accord and a Civic. Nissan takes number 9 with the Altima. So there's a lot of direct competitors, but Japan is producing autos, but Toyota has been in machinery since 1943, when they started out in textiles. But the Toyota model, for kind of trimming the fat, they call it, has been studied for the last 6 decades. And respectively, they're only 13.4 of the Asian market. But Great Wall Motors in China is actually the world's largest distributor of SUVs, which subsequently makes up a large market. The U.S. market currently holds a surplus of Toyota Motors. There's large breaks in autos right now. They're offering the Toyota Camry at $18,000, respectively, trying to dump it, and it's kind of a hindrance. But I would say overall, the tariff campaign that's going on right now with the current administration is not really affecting them because of NAFTA. Uh, Toyota produces its North American cars in Tennessee and Georgia, allowing them to avoid sanctions or tariffs, as you might call them, and they avoid tax law. They're able to distribute in Canada and Mexico. Overall, performance of their peers, Toyota well outperforms its peers. As you can see, the blue line, Toyota. Its second competitor, Honda, which is another Japanese motor, and Ford and BMW. Mercedes is on here, but Mercedes produces little things outside of the market for Toyota. So their market shares are a little higher. That would be depicted in other graphs. But here we're talking strictly small pickup trucks, as small SUVs, and vehicles. For example, the Toyota Camry is not available in all markets, so it would not be depicted. But they're a global leader. They have about $50 billion a year in U.S. dollars in sales. Some years they go as high as $81 billion. Toyota is competing against a loyal, patriotic clientele here in the United States, where people think that buying Ford and buying GM are staying American, but that's becoming a hindrance as GM has moved out of the country and Ford Motors produces number one selling cars in the United States and Mexico. So Toyota is actually the number one produced car in the United States, especially the Toyota Corolla, the number one selling car for its gas efficiency, second to the Toyota Camry. Toyota is set next year, as well as this year, to make record-breaking sales. I would say that's a little bit of a hindrance because of the surplus that they have here in the United States. I couldn't really find a whole lot to depict why there's a surplus, maybe other than they overproduced and overprojected. But Europe, they're respectively expected to sell the Corolla, but their sales are dipped 1.6%. But Toyota is expected to rise in that. They're missing the mark on human, how do I say it? They're missing the mark on automated delivery services and rideshare. But they're trying to pick up with a $1 billion investment into Uber and diversifying their holds. Toyota is an underdog for the rideshare industry overall with Lyft and Uber, but the technology needs to advance. So there's a lot of legislation out there that's putting out major cities have scooters and driverless cars and delivery services, but road safety and local and regional legislation will be the hindrance there. So I would wait a year or two to see what it comes out, but as Toyota does, they're trying to innovate. It should be expected that sales will increase as Toyota will try to maintain its market share. Japan will slow down, certainly because there is so much competition for the domestically produced, with Honda, Nissan, Mazda, and Toyota being in that country. But Toyota will continue to be the leader in North America, and they'll continue to maintain their global hold. Right now, they're sitting, as of June 14th, they're sitting at $124 a share. Now, that dropped recently, and certainly that is better than 2008. They continue to outsell their competitors with more efficient cars. Fuel efficiency and green energy has become a major point for them. But Toyota has taken a step further. They have Toyota Banking and Leasing. The banks that collaborate with Toyota offer local licensing that allows them to overcome currency exchanges and regulate currency issues. Because Toyota is a Japanese-based company, so if they're trading against the dollar or if they peg themselves to a currency for trade, it limits them. So Toyota goes in other markets and they create a banking system or financing system that, in wholly in part, is financed through Toyota. Here in the United States, it's called FTL Finance, but they look to control the market and sales projecting, and they could control gaps quarterly. Tariffs may become an issue for Toyota. President Trump has looked into taxing the government because of relations with Iran and other things, but I think that's a lot of bolstering. So that could be a financial risk. And product surplus certainly is overprojection is a risk, because the longer they have to maintain that, the longer they have to pay out to dealerships and warehouses and transportation. Here's a blank slide. I didn't have anything to write just because I missed a step. Toyota's long-term bonds, their YTM is at 3.2%. They're offering it about $104. It's a little bit up from when I projected. They're paying out in a period of about 6.5 years. Bonds paying out, they're due in 2025. But they offer a 10-year purchase bond, and they have a Moody and Fitch both give them an A. They're stable. Overrun. They did have some recalls in the last few years, but they were able to overcome. Mainly, Toyota projected or put a PR face on their issues when they were overcoming recalls. During the recalls, they had to shut down plants and reconsolidate, and that came to the restructuring of their leadership. But they put their employees to work through acts of public outreach. It was a good PR campaign. It was very interesting to find out. Toyota Motors is trading a little bit down, not much, at $123.23. I would give it a stock to buy. They pay dividends. Historically, they hold strong, and I would say it's undersold. They had some major recalls, but they were able to remedy the issues, as stated earlier, through outreach, and they put a lot of stock in a PR. Toyota holds a large cash reserve, and that's modeled after Ford. Ford put a lot into research and development, and Takashi Toyota, they used to spell it with a D before, they changed it to a T for marketing. Just interesting fact. They were able to diversify themselves, and they studied American motors and made it more efficient, and they became the model for U.S. manufacturing after they perfected what they had. But Toyota was started in textiles, and they still maintain that textile manufacturing. They are a global leader in textile manufacturing as well as warehousing, forklifts and such. So I hope this was informative, and this was definitely one of the most interesting things that I've done, but I had to reform a lot of my slides and projected as per guidance. But thanks for listening, and I hope you got everything you hoped for. Good night.